Okay, all right. So most likely that we will have a, excuse me, a welcome note first.
Dr. Kang, over to you.
Okay, Honey, welcome back. And also to all our participants and all the speakers as well. Okay, good to see you, Honey. Okay, Honey's muted. Never mind, I continue. Okay, today we'll have another webinar on the future of work. Okay, despite the calendar invite that says the future of webinar, which is incorrectly titled, it should be actually the future of work rather than future of webinar. Okay, this time we will be talking about the millennials and Gen Z and how they will be changing the future of work. Okay, so thank you very much to everyone who's participating in this, and over to you, Honey. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Kang, and good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be able to be here, despite the fact that I think we've been doing this for close to a year, and this is our future of work number 6. Apparently, we still have some technologically challenged situation, which is what's happening right now. So I hope that I would be able to do justice to today's session, despite the fact I'm logging in, not using my laptop today. All right, so welcome everyone who is here today, and I would also like to welcome all of our speakers, Mr. Saravanan, Mr. Gordon Kwong, and Encik Nick Razin. So all of these three speakers, they are subject matter experts in their own rights, and I would like to welcome all of them today. Today's topic is very, very interesting because we're going to talk about the millennials and the Gen Z who are already reshaping the future of work. It is said that there are now more than 50% of these two generations. They are here in the world of work, and they are already changing at how the world of work is progressing. Now, the millennials generation who are born between the 1980 and 2000, they are have entered the employability space. The Gen Z, they are also called the change generation, simply because their fluidity in using technology. But today, what we're going to talk about are several, I would say, topics that I would think be best to be discussed in such a way that that these two generations be understood for their own merits, and some of the challenges for those who are obviously not in the millennials or Gen Z. So we're going to look at the perspectives from our three speakers, Mr. Saravanan, Mr. Gordon Kwong, and Mr. Nick Razin. So first and foremost, I would like to invite Mr. Saravanan, who is the Senior Director of Student Experience, University Technology Petronas, to say a few words about yourself. Sarah?
Hi, Honey. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So for those who are participating in this event, thank you so much for making your time and being here today. So like how Honey introduced, I'm Saravanan. So later, guys, if you have any questions, you can just put, Sarah, this is my question. I'm perfectly fine with it. Okay, to start with, I'm not part of the millennial nor the Gen Z. Okay, myself, Honey, all belongs to the other group that is currently working with millennials and Gen Z. Okay, so throughout my career experience, which spans at least about 25 years, I've been in hotel industry, fast food industry, finally landed in education industry. And in education industry, I started off as a lecturer, then moved on and so forth, until today I'm managing Student Experience Center. So along the way, as you see with the dynamics of where I've been, I've worked with different group of generations. And I think in the past 10 years, I have had privilege working with more of millennials and Gen Z, either working with them, interviewing them, and so on. So I had a chance to understand how things has changed from where I started or we started to where things are now. So I think I'm definitely excited of sharing my input and also giving a bit of guidance here and there, which may or may not be relatable with the current group. So I hope you guys can have a good take home back today. Yep. Over to you, Hani.
Okay, thanks so much. I think the first time we met was pre-pandemic. It was over a face-to-face session, which I so look forward to.
Yes.
Okay, so I do have a list of discussion topics to discuss with you, Sarah, and I know that there will be a lot of things that you may be able to share with our audience today. Just quickly moving on to Mr. Gordon Kwong. Gordon, welcome. If you can take a minute to introduce yourself on your role with a big pharmacy Malaysia.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Hani. My name is Gordon Kwong, and I'm the Talent Acquisitions and Employer Branding Manager in Big Pharmacy Healthcare. Prior to that, I was in retail industry as well, but particularly in consumer electronics. And now, with similar kind of role, I'm into the healthcare line. Okay, right now in Big Pharmacy, as you can see, the massive plan of expansion is very much different from compared to before the pandemic. Okay, with the pandemic, even foster the expansion plan of Big Pharmacy. And now we're recruiting talent, a lot of talents for the business. All right, back to you, Hani.
I think that's very awesome. It will be very, very helpful for our audience today to understand what is the perspective coming from the employers. So just a quick question. I'm going to teach a little bit, Gordon. So which generation you might be?
Okay. I was born in 1980s. Okay. So back then in 1980s, people call us as Gen X, but when I go to the latest kind of, we have a lot of generations now. So I was relured to, I think I would become a millennials right now.
Early millennials.
Early millennials.
Okay.
Right. So I'm the first batch to embrace the technology, digitalizations.
And I'm sure that you've seen quite a bit over the years at how the landscape, or rather the generation, has evolved over the few years. Yeah, you know, the adaptability and all that. So I think that was interesting to share with the audience today and see how what are those things that have actually changed or not. We're not quite sure. So okay, thank you so much, Gordon. And moving on to Mr. Nick Razin. Nick Razin.
Yeah, hi, Hani, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to this program. First of all, I'm Nick Razin, currently culture transformation in Post Malaysia. So, bit of fact is that I'm actually still new in Post Malaysia. So, bear in mind that I can contribute at least what I've known so far. Yeah. But before that, basically, as everyone is Gen Z, what's Gordon is? Millennials, eh? So basically, I'm Gen Z representation of Gen Z. So what I can contribute is that maybe a bit of how my experience, moving into a new company and then learning from scratch, trying to adapt. And just see whether how does companies actually absorb, or try to cater to our generation.
Yeah. So can I hazard a guess that you will be in the early millennial as well, similar to Gordon?
Yeah, 96.
Okay.
No worries. Yeah, cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. It would be great to also understand from another early millennial, I would say, and see what kind of stories that we can share with our audience today in addressing some of the, some of the challenges and also some of the benefits, I would say, to have the millennials and Gen Z in our current and future work, and see how we can manage those expectations coming both from employers as well as from this generation. So thanks so much, Razin, for addressing that, for introducing yourself. Okay, so now that we have gotten to know a little bit more about our three speakers, what I've done was I prepared quite a bit of discussion items to, I would say, to discuss with our speakers. Now, we know for a fact that, the Gen Z and the millennials, they have the tendency to be a little bit, I would say, fluid in their outlook of career. So the tendency to look at something more meaningful and something that motivates them a little bit more than the previous role, for example, is very much higher in comparison to the previous generation. So we know that, for example, the previous generation would stay a little bit longer, on average 5 to 6 years, some as long as 10 years and 15 years, whereby the millennials and the Gen Z are most likely not wanting to do that for a lot of reasons. So the question here is that, just reflecting on your own experiences for all our three speakers, and I did take a look at all your LinkedIn profile, and you do have had the working experience from one organization to another. So this question, I would go first to Sarah. So Sarah, you've had quite a few numbers of really, exciting roles that you've had over the years. I've got a question for you. How do you know when to shift to the next role? Sarah, that's for you, Sarah. I'm curious.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Okay, so actually, if over the 22, 23 years of experience I've ever had throughout my career, I have actually jumped about 4 different companies. Sorry, now with the fifth one. I think the longest being one of the company I stayed for about 11 years. Okay, so which I think I will agree with you, Hani. Currently, we don't, with the current group that I interview most of the time, you see the span of the time they have been with an organization is normally between 3 to 5 years. Even if you can get 5 years, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
When those times you can see easily people staying like 20 years. My mom stayed with the company for 29 years, started there and ended there. So I think for me, it was always about what I have done in the current role. Do I see any growth in that area or not? If I'm unable to see that growth coming in the next 1 year or 2 years, that's the time I will start to look out. Okay, what else can I do? And I think for me, it has always been not just the role itself, but for the industry in a bigger scope. Like me being in so-called, even though I'm in education industry, but I actually manage with student experience. So I think it goes beyond just students, like parents and so on, right? So it's like, what else can I bring to the table? And can I do that with the current company or not? If not, what can I do in the new place? So I think that always have been my reflection points. And at some point, it helps me to decide whether, okay, this is the time, do it. Yeah, that's always been mine.
Well, that's pretty deep then, because that takes a lot of reflection. What have I done well here? What else can I do and all that, versus those, the emotionally charged of looking at something shiny new, for example, and even for my dad, he's with his profession, he started over there and he ended up over there.
Yep.
I see myself doing exactly that, but I you came from. Very, very interesting. Now let's hear from Gordon. Gordon, what was your experience? When did you know, or rather, how would you know when to go to the next role? So what makes you want to go, or motivates you for that?
All right. All right. If you're looking prior to I commence my work, I mean my expertise in recruitment field, back then I was do what I want to do, follow your heart. And I started actually first batch of millennials. We tend to started the new era of e-commerce. So I started my e-commerce business back then.
Nice.
But more that was more than 10 years ago, isn't it? More than 10 years ago. And the entire environment, backcode environment, is not designed for e-commerce yet. And with that, when I see it is not developed yet, so I changed my career. Okay, until it comes to a what I call it, a matured environment. Okay, now when we're talking about a change of job compared to older generations, if you compare to my dad who born in 1940s, baby boomers. Okay, whenever I'm talking to my dad, okay, I'm changing a new job. So
yes.
the first response is that, are you not doing well in your company?
Oh my goodness.
So that is the impression from the older generations, because the loyalty and the perceptions that you would be good if you're working in the same company. But in millennials, okay, we are looking for another kind of career opportunity. All right, challenges, which is something new and it's difficult to be understood by my dad, baby boomer.
Yes.
So I take a longer duration time to explain to him. Okay, so now back to your question again. Now I will rather look into what I want to be achieved in the next 10 years or 20 years and find your directions. So figure out what you want and whether it's feasible to proceed or not. Else, if you're rushing to a place that is not sustainable, it might be a challenge for you in your future. Okay, and the career opportunity that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, yeah. So the thinking process in comparison to a previous generation, not too far, right, is a little bit different, because obviously the baby boomers, that's where I'm almost at, actually. The thinking process is that if I were to leave, that means there's something wrong with me, that I'm not doing well, right?
Yes.
It's not about the organization or motivation or anything like that. It is the other way around. Very, very interesting. Whereas when you decided to go and explore outside, it would be based on a few considerations. And most likely your own motivation or sustainability of a business or something like that. Very, very interesting. I'm curious to hear from Nate Razin.
Yeah. Sure.
Before this, so what's the story there?
Yeah. Let me share you a story that maybe some of the fresh grads or even a newly young executive trying out in embracing working life. So coming from myself, the story started as an intern. Yeah, let me go back a few years, which is still recently new for me, I guess 2-3 years back, 4 years. So what I can say that during my internship days, it was pretty exciting because I was in IOI Properties Berhad. So basically, I've learned a lot about designing, where that's part of my passion. So during that time, basically I learned how to, make videos, how to become a host, how to, talk to different level of executives, Other than that, it was a bit saddening because I'm unable to continue there as a young executive. However, I got the opportunity to move into a so-called investment property company So after that, I was in a hospitality line and hotels. So that time I spent around 1 year plus, almost 2 years, moving around the States, recording, shooting, doing content to increase our awareness in terms of social media awareness, Facebook, and then other than that, it's being used as a marketing collaterals. And then after going back to your question, Hani, how do I know that it's about time for change? Is a bit subjective for me because although comparing my generation to others, I could say that I came from a so-called medium class family, I guess. So the survival rate is not as high in comparison to other generation that comes from the lower income family. So in terms of that, I could see if they have the opportunity, there's a lot of factors to consider, whereby in terms of myself, it's more on whether the opportunity is something that I feel it is worth it, or it is something that I want to explore. So a funny story is when I was in the hospitality line, I was actually a full-time staff. So I actually took a leap of faith to actually join Post Malaysia as a management trainee. So as you all know, management trainee is normally contractual staff. So basically during that time, it was during COVID itself. So it was a lot of I could see threats, positions that being frozen, opportunities suddenly closed, due to COVID and restrictions. But then, however, with faith and then taking that step, I tendered my first resignation as a executive, and then go and enter a newly company which has been in Malaysia for so long, over 200 years, and inshallah 200 years more to come. So and then that's quite a big move for me, as a starting from zero, learning back, the basics, get to know people in a huge organization. I could say it was a bit of culture shock, but then after a while, I believe, with all the experience that I've encountered less than a year, it was an eye-opening experience for me. So in terms of what I can say towards fresh graduates or even young executives, like Gordon said just now, even you got to follow your heart. But you know when the right time comes, the opportunity comes. It's all about you taking that leap of faith to just try out new things. Yeah, I guess.
My goodness,
yeah.
That was quite a leap of faith, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And moving from one place to another, and very, very interesting, Nick, that you actually mentioned about the family background at the same time.
Yeah.
Because so far I've never had anyone having this conversation about generational gaps or opportunities within a certain generation versus the family background or economic background. Social background. So I find that very, very interesting, and maybe perhaps during our course of interaction today, we might be able to come together and perhaps discuss it as well. Having said that, I think what really stood up between all of our three speakers is that there have been somehow some sort of motivations to move from one role to another. It might be opportunities, it might be, but certainly it sounded like the trail of thoughts are a little bit different. It sounded like it. It sounded like it. So thank you so much for sharing that. But so coming back to Sarah, I want to come back to you because there was something that you have mentioned, you know, about some of the one of the roles that you had before. It lasted for about 11 years. Why 11 years? What made you stay?
Okay, so at that point of time, I think, okay, Ani, so just going back to what Gordon and Nick shared, just to touch a bit on that, I think the current group, this generation, they are a bit more of bold risk takers, I would say. I think that was lacking a bit in our team, our group. I think even though at some point we decided to move, we always wanted to be sure whether this is the right move to take. You know, whether it is going to benefit of me or not in the long term. Am I going to the right organization next that is more sustainable and things like that? I think probably it's also how the whole market was designed at that point of time, like how Gordon mentioned about e-commerce and all that thing. At our point when we started, it was not there yet. So I think there was a lot of big question marks of like, again, like what Nick and Gordon also mentioned, the questions our parents would throw to us when you're getting a job. Okay, have you checked the background of the company? Is it strong? Are they good paymasters? You know, that kind of things that always be the thing. So for me, I think being 11 years in that one organization, that was right after I came back from Singapore. So I used to work in Singapore for a while. Then I came back and I was with IUKL now, known as KLIUC at that point. So I was with them as lecturer and then moved on to another role, which took me about 11 years before I decided to move on. What kept me in that job was actually the fun of working with the younger group. I think that was the best part of it. Yeah.
Cool. So cool.
So I think it kept me young at heart, you know, being with that group all the time. And I also find that was really good for me to pass back the knowledge that I've learned in marketing area, you know, packaged together with my experience in hotel industry and fast food industry before that, and you know, ability to serve and so on. But I think towards the last 2-3 years is where I realized my passion was, you know, I still love teaching, but I think I could do more if I take up bigger role where it covers the student affairs and things like that. I'm able to be in a position where I can help students more to make changes in their life. I think that pushed me to take up bigger role and eventually took me out of KLIUC and put me where I was for the next 7 years. I was, you know, with another institution. So I think to answer back, I think again, the 11 years, because I enjoyed what I was doing at that point. And I think end of the day, all of us are like that. As long as you are enjoying it and there's always a growth opportunity there, I think we will remain there until it comes to a point that you start having a question, what's next? Yeah.
You know, very, very interesting. I'm always curious about the reason why people stay for a very long period, right? So one of the things that I pick up from you is that you actually enjoyed it. So here's the thing, Sarah, I've also heard this from those who stay on an average of about 3 to 4 years. They also enjoy it. But apparently, I think there are some other factors that make them go as well, which are bigger than the joy factor. What do you think?
I agree with you, and I'm seeing that more and more nowadays. Like I would say, I think there's also a question in our chat box. This person actually asked whether the organization structure and business strategy has influenced the movements or not of people, which I think now it's becoming evident, and I think we'll be talking about this area later on as part of our today webinar. But I do agree, nowadays people are looking into much bigger things when they join a company. Along their career, you know, things and all that. It's not just about, if you ask people who have been around for 20 years, 15 years, on top of them enjoying the job, the other thing they always talk about is the group of friends they have created. They, you know, the sense of family, whatever it is, I'm here for you, you are here for me. you know, they work together, and it becomes harder when you have been with that group for a while and thinking of moving to another place and starting all over again and things like that. So at times people, like, even though they have pockets of issues in the current organization or the job, they compromise it. They say it's okay because I have a bigger team that supports my journey. But I think nowadays people are a bit more open to explore, see new things and move on. And they want to really make an impact on the industry or the area they are attached to. So I can see within 3 years or 4 years, people like, what's next for me? How can I be the person in this area? So when this opportunity comes along, they move. I think that's what's happening. And I'm seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, agree with you. And it will be quite interesting as well to hear from the industry perspective. Gordon, have you seen changes over the years? I'm sure that you've big hires, you know, over a spectrum of talent, from the Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z to the more mature generation, I would say, to fill up some of the headcount or talents that is required within the big pharmacy. What are the things that you see in terms of, you know, the differences, key differences? Care to share?
Right. And in the past 10 years in the recruitment field, I can see that it's not that the generations or millennials, Generation Z or millennials, that switching job very, you know, in a short period of time. But then actually it applies to all generations. In fact, if you're asking me, okay, have you noticed any differences? Okay, so one different, no different is that there are generations who job hop as well in every generation. Secondly, okay, in terms of the attitude towards the job they're applying, okay, because why we do criticize a lot of millennials or Generation Z is that they are young, okay? If you pull back to the previous generation when they are young, it's similar kind of, you know, changing job, attitude is happening as well. Okay, I'm not trying to defend millennials. All right, so when it comes to preparations and experience dealing with people, interviewing, the Generation X or baby boomers, they have more experience in this area that makes them outstanding from, especially in terms of job search. If you are looking for someone who have a certain attitude or interpersonal skill. And when it comes to the newer generations, when we do hiring, we can notice that the Generation Z, millennials, they have more tech savvy. I think we have been mentioning a lot of times for the past 10 years, 20 years, talking about technology, how technology impacts us and how to impact the generation across all, you know, from whatever age you can name it. All right. All right. So if you asking me again, I will say the same as well.
So again, it depends on where it sounded like some of these ideas are perception over something concrete. Yeah. You know, I think for Razin, who's involved in change and transformation of an organization, whereby his current organization is going through some, I'm very sure, some massive changes all throughout. I've been a keen observer, Razin, with all these new changes over the past many months. So that's why I'm really excited to speak to you today as well and see, you know, because knowing for a fact that under for your organization, it's 200 years old. It's long. It has a long history of, you know, seeing all kinds of talents coming in and out and all that. And the majority have been there for the longest time. So what can you see between, you know, the current generation that's entering to the workforce of your organization, you know, the millennials and Gen Z versus the ones who are already there for the past 25 years or 30 years? What are the differences that you can see, or the similarities that you can see based from your experience so far?
Thanks, Annie. Wow. So you've been excited to actually talk to me, eh? So what I could say is, coming from a culture change perspective, yeah. So we can see that the behavior of people that has been with the organization for even 20+ years, 30 years, even some 40 years. After SPM, they entered Post Malaysia, and then they started as a Karani, and then even postman, and then they go up to the ladder, and then that's how they sustain themselves in the organization for so long. Yeah? And for sure, we can see that they are proud, working in Post Malaysia. That's the first thing. And then when they're talking about work and change and even adaptation, they have been going through for the longest time, especially the people that has been 20 years and above in an organization. So because culture change or even any transformation, it travels with time. As time goes on, it requires change, improvement, innovation, and even technology. So when we talk about technology back then, it was the screen of a computer is only this big, and then nowadays it's this big, and even it goes more advanced than what we can do 30 years back then.
Yeah.
So trying to teach, trying to learn, trying to enforce the technology onto the people that have been 20 years plus in an organization might be we can see it as a challenge, but that's when the opportunity in terms of talent, gaining young talents plays a crucial role as well, because they'll be mainly focused on technology, trying to get the young segments of customers that is part of our database. So trying to align all those key areas is definitely an ongoing initiative as we go along.
Very, very interesting. I read somewhere that it was said that Gen Z is the best fit generation for now, post-pandemic. Imagine that.
Yeah.
We're out of work, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely not in the cities, but we're going to fight.
Yeah, sure.
It's really, really interesting, because I think of all the things that we've been presented itself in terms of technology. I also think that there are a lot of things that we can learn from each generation at the same time. I have a big question for all three of you, and this question has been asked to me many times over as a career coach. Now, I want to hear from the three of you your thoughts about changing a job versus changing a career. So changing a job versus changing a career. What does it mean to you, and how would you like to highlight this changing a job versus changing a career to our audience today? Sarah, I think you may have a thing or two to say about changing a job versus changing a career, because there are some stories that I read about you that I think resonates with this question.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Annie. Okay. So I do come across this question as well to some of the students that I speak to, or the younger generation that I deal with. Most important, I think, before you switch or you even plan your career growth, I think very important is to understand the difference between job and a career. Job is something you get at the early part of your life. You complete your studies, you go out, and you just get a job because you just need that money to roll your life. Okay, there are bills to pay. Some of us, have the privilege with being with parents, and somehow our expenses are taken care of until your parents say that it's okay, you can take your time, get a job that fits your heart, your soul, and everything. But not many of us are blessed with those kind of things. So today you graduate, tomorrow you have to get a job. So I think that's the job part of it. So when we talk about job, it may or may not be what you love to do, or you wanted to do, or you wanted to build on later on. But career is something that you're thinking in a longer or a bigger perspective that touches your heart and your soul, that you want to give back to the society, to the community, or an area that you really see yourself blooming. Like for example, for me, when I started off, the job was I was with hotel, restaurants, front office, and things like that, and moved on to fast food industry, cleaning tables, serving, and things like that. But eventually, when I found out that my passion is in customer experience, customer service area, that's when I ventured into lecturing and moved on to where I am now. So I think it's important for you to understand that, because at some point, the reflection will tell you whether you're ready to take the career move or not. The other thing is that sometimes you would have studied for something else, for example. But then again, as you move on through your career, your job, you will find your passion in something else. So that's where you will see that, oh, you know what, I studied this, but I think my passion is in another area which I really want to develop further. So I think that's when you start seeing things in a bigger perspective and the area that can help you to grow in that sense. So if you talk about job, normally job switching comes with package that comes along. If I can get a better pay, better perks, things like that, and so on. But when you talk about career, it's not so much about just the salary alone. It's more about what can you learn in the new place, how impactful your role can be in the new place. I think that's very, very important. So for me, that's the difference. And this is where you find it. And again, talking about it also comes with levels of motivation in your life. Like how Nick mentioned just now about family background, the economic status, and all that. When you're submerged in it, it's mostly about the job, earning, and making sure things are clear. But I think when you hit a certain point where you're more stable, that's where you start thinking about your career growth. And you plan out for the next 20, 30 years, I want to work, where do I want to end? And some people are good enough. I think some of the millennials here do think about that as well. They think beyond their retirement age. When we talk about retirement age, if you go and talk to about my age people, when you ask them, what is your retirement age? They'll always tell about, 50, 55, or 60. But when you ask the current millennials, what's your retirement age about? 35, 40. Yeah. They're thinking of that, and they want to have this, silent income coming in here and there. So they want to build that kind of concept where they can really enjoy their life, their time, their money at much earlier age while doing their job. Honey, just to share with you, recently I went for a holiday in Chirating. I met this girl who was doing this fire dance thing right outside of a bar that is currently doing 4 jobs, 3 is all online jobs. She's only 24. She's doing online job. She's earning well. She can work from anywhere. And this fire dance thing is just her passion. And also she earns from that, from the hotel and all that. So you see, if we talk about our generation, will we ever take this kind of risk, or will we want to venture into something like this? We would say, never mind, I'll wait until I retire, then I'll go and learn my fire dance and try to do that. But the current generation is completely new, and I salute them for that. Yeah, that will be my input, honey. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that was interesting. I read that post on your LinkedIn, and I thought that was very interesting, because as we talk to a lot more people in the younger generation, I also realized that they are open to a higher risk defined by certain generation, like getting having 4 jobs at one go, traveling the world, they become digital nomads. And to certain generation, this is like no anchor. What is this? Scary. But apparently it works.
It works.
Yeah, it works only if you know how.
I think it's important to understand how do you manage it. I think you have to look at it in a broader perspective. And I think one thing I have to salute the millennials, whether it's the family support, guidance, or the education system they are going through, or the kind of information they are exposed to at this point of time, makes them think in a bigger way and helps them to grow. I mean, like, I'm not denying there are also things that they can also learn from the other group, but I think that sense of risk-taking, I salute you guys.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. One thing I know for sure is the energy that they bring into the workplace. I think that it's just, you know, it's almost always positive, lots of energy and lots of sunshine, I will call them.
Correct.
All right. Okay. Thanks so much, Sarah. I thought that would be quite interesting to ask you about, you know, the change of job versus changing of career. What do you think, Gordon, on this particular topic, changing of job versus changing career? How do you see this happening as you are, you know, recruiting for talent across your organization?
All right, Hani. Okay, I do very agree with Sarah mentioned about the job versus career. If I may shorten it, okay. If I ask you a question, okay, have you heard of jobless?
Yes.
Have you heard of careerless?
All right.
Yeah,
this is good.
When it comes to current generations, all right, and if you compare, and actually, you can see when I do a lot of hiring and meeting with a lot of job seeker, and in fact, a lot, even though they are jobless, but they are not careerless. They have their own career without any job. You can still have your career, you can still explore in your career. And if you want to specialize in one, probably several professions, you can look at, for example, a freelancer that we're providing to a lot of services. Probably you have engaged with a lot of freelancer, okay? And if I link to a story that I have in the past few months, I'm trying to engage with some of the designer, okay? Like what Sarah said, they have several jobs. And in fact, they have several assignments at once, okay? Because they're getting the assignment, how they get a paycheck is by how many assignments they have completed. All right, so they engage with agency, they engage with the freelancer portal, and probably sometimes they have a contract. Okay, so these are the changes, and this is the differences if you compare to whether you have a job or you're careerless. If audience, if your parents is asking you whether you have a career or you have a job, okay, you can take this as an example. You can still get your paycheck monthly or even weekly and make a living of it. You can make a living on your career, okay, not solely on your job. All right.
Wow. Okay. Slightly different perspective, but I think I understand where it comes from. What about you, Razin? Job versus career?
Wow, that's something I look forward to in terms of career, I guess. So I'm at the stage of finding myself as well for now, because you know, coming from a communication background, endeavoring into marketing, comms, and then now, you know, culture. But then in terms of building my career, I guess my 5 years plan would be finding the similarities rather than holding to a so-called career. You know, if I were to change my career, it does have similarities in terms of, you know, communication. You know, as myself, you know, my strength would be in terms of talking. I like to communicate. I like to, you know, exchange ideas. So if there is similarities, then I would focus on that, but then not very particular in terms of what do I do. You get what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think it resonates to what Sarah was mentioning earlier. Finding that alignment, or rather the sweet spot, I think, in getting that skills, passion, interest, and values at the same time, all of align, then I think you would find the sweet spot, i.e. the career. Otherwise, it will become a job that we do, I suppose, to go on living. Yeah. And you know, enjoy at the same time. But I think the higher purpose is to have all these things aligned, and that's where we find what is that career path. I think it's something of it requires self-awareness and self-reflection to also understand, is this a job or is this a career?
Yeah.
I think over the years. Okay, so something that will be a meaningful topic to, you know, have a conversation with friends and I Sarah at the same time. Okay, so I have another question. This is something that has been happening, especially throughout the pandemic. So we are entering into the endemic, but for the past 2 years, I hope that no one really forgets about the 2 years that we've been under lockdown and have gone through all kinds of, I would say, scenarios and situations. I also have seen a good fair share of talents moving from one organization to another due to a change of job role or downsizing. But some of them I've seen changing jobs because of some pressure or rather situations, and that has affected their mental being. So I'm going to talk a little bit about mental being. Is there any relationship? I will say, let me just take a note here. All right. So do you think, is there any relationship between mental wellness within an organization that a person experience to changing a job or a career? So basically the question is, you know, sometimes when you are in an organization, you're doing this as a job or as a role, and you move because of, you know, there might be the situation is affecting your mental wellness. What do you think? Maybe to Sarah first. What do you think? Are you seeing this in the
I think I will agree, because I think now mental health is a huge topic outside there, whether it's among students, it's among employee and all like that. I think especially the 2 years being locked down and, you know, restricted space. I know some people enjoy the space being at home and so on, but I think there's another group of people who really wanted to be out there, seeing their colleagues, being able to see people and so on. And I think, like what Nick mentioned earlier, there has been some downsizing, and, you know, I think Ani, you also mentioned about, you know, a lot of restructuring that has taken place over the organizations, where now when people are let go, they are not replaced. So the existing team member has to take up additional role. So I think that is also putting an added stress on people and so on. So it's very important for organizations to understand what role they play in managing the employees' mental health issues, like what contributes to mental health issue. Because nowadays people, they come to work, they also carry the burden from home, you know, kids being at home for those who have kids and so on. And the kind of stress, there could be people who have lost job in their house, where now they have to take over the care and so on, right? So there's a lot of things contributing to it. And when the organizations are not supporting that, and these people, these employees, they find another place, you know, through friends and so on, that has a better policy and whatever not, I think that's when this spectrum opens up. Should I consider of moving to another company that pays attention to mental health? And like what Nick's role is about, you know, culture and so on. It's very interesting now. One of my friends who recently joined a company that has positioned just to manage culture of people in the organization, where we don't hear those times. You know, it's part and parcel of HR's role to do this. But nowadays, companies are paying attention to the different background of people that's joining, people from different industry coming in, and how do they get along with the people or the culture of the organization. And meaning that it's not only about them getting accustomed to what the organization is all about, it's also continuously looking into the culture of the organization and evolving it, you know, like opening it up to the new thing, new learning and so on. So I think I will agree, mental health is definitely one of the reasons why people move. Even if they don't move, it's actually opening up their thinking cap that should I, yep.
Yeah, I do see all these cases where they actually leave because of the pressure. So, you know, the organization, they resize, they are resizing activities, and the fact that the job has been redistributed among all, so there are more things to do. So sometimes this has put in an additional layer of pressure to the talent. So my question also, and I'm thinking about, so how do we as an employer manage this in anticipation of this, you know, changes? Maybe Gordon, you have some thoughts about it. You know, when the mature talents have been, you know, transited out, and there are more and more younger generation coming in, and obviously, you know, the jobs might be redistributed or change. How can we as organization anticipate the expectation of receiving the younger generation, Gen X? No, not Gen X. Millennials.
All right. Okay, so when it comes to the pandemic that mentioned by Hani and you know, Sarah, okay, a lot of companies during the pandemic crisis, there's a lot of industrial, they're getting their employees taking pay cut or getting retrenchment. So that happened when the stress is already there.
Yes.
And added additional stress to that, and family, how to juggle between family and work at the same time. And if you were mentioned about how the employer is going to tackle this this issue, and when it comes to a new kind of graduates or new workforce coming into the workplace, and during this pandemic, I believe most of you have been experiencing that as well, where during pandemic, a lot working from home, and working from home as a fresh graduate, it could be a big stress for fresh graduate as well. And because you are actually disengaged with colleagues, you are becoming more task-oriented. You assign job, but lesser communications, lesser engagement. And back then, when a few years back, we were in the office, we were engaged with the team, you know, onboarding, team building. Okay, if you're switching it online, there will be discrepancy and something that can be different, even though if you're looking at, even though the fresh graduate is more tech savvy, or they say they are more engaged during the digital, but the human touch that lacking when you are onboarding or you're hiring a new person. And for the past few years, we are using the you know, we're doing online interview, you know, online onboarding. Everything is online, and I believe most of the organization has noticed that as well. That's why they roll out a lot of engagement activities. For example, sending items, onboarding item, new joiner pack to your house. So that makes some sort of connections. But still, Hani, I do feel that is enough without personal one-to-one handover the job or guiding, giving motivational over the phone or personal.
Absolutely.
That is a challenges when you're working fully digital mode. You switch on digital mode and you forgot about going back to the benefits of meeting the person in person.
I agree. I also read in a research that actually the majority of Gen Z prefers to come back to the office for some reason.
Yes, because these are the generations that haven't got the chance to be in person with the managers, with the top management. And would you be able, I mean, would you consider there's a chance where every day you're meeting with your top management daily, or are you creating any opportunity for the new joiner or the fresh year to online digital chat with the management team? There's lacking of this kind of engagement.
Interesting. And here I am, I don't know about you, Razin, and here I am thinking about, battling the traffic jam.
Yeah, that's one of it. But good point, Gordon, because I could say I could relate to every word you say just now, because like I said earlier, onboarding into a company during the pandemic itself, during the second lockdown, that was basically how I joined in the company. And then basically losing the human touch is definitely something that is lacking when I was joining the company itself. But due to everyone, the pandemic is still new, everyone's not knowing what to expect. It's more on adaptation of myself during that time. I'm sure that a lot of fresh graduates try their level best to even adapt, learn as time goes on, because what makes another point that you said just now was handover part, and then during my time as well, there are changes in my team, and when my team one is leaving, the portfolio was handed over to me, but then the handing over part without personal touch is something that is a bit tricky, when you understand your teammate has his own family, has his own things to do, and then you're there just to what's the things that needs to be done, what are the things that is lacking. But then if we were at the office, there aren't so many noises nor disturbance that could be happen at home, and then you have that one, even half an hour means a lot more in comparison to 1 hour, into talking via Teams or even Zoom. So I could say that it was a bit of challenge. And like Hani, I think if I were to saw that survey that you read just now in terms of the research, Gen Z coming back to the office, I could say that I'm one of it as well.
That you prefer to come back to the office.
Yeah.
And Sarah, I don't know about you, Sarah, there'll be traffic jam, managing a few other things at home.
Yeah. But surprisingly, right? Yeah, surprisingly nowadays there are hybrid work arrangement that has been introduced throughout a lot of the major companies. So I think that's a good initiative where we can actually see the flexibility that organizations are currently going to.
Sure. But I think that hasn't removed the fact that we'll be battling traffic jam.
Summer with the schools opening up and then parents sending. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so I'm going to shift gear just a little bit, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about talent retention, right? So talent retention across the spectrum of the generation. And having said that, I think what we have right now in the market, in the job market, is that there are about 20 to 30% of the baby boomers still exist in the spectrum of our talent. Right, and the balance is being made up by the various generations. So having said that, personally, I think it's just all this naming names for the generation is to make things easier when we do hiring. At least to me. However, I also understand that there are several retention strategies when we want to talk about retaining all these people in our workforce. Let's talk about something from your environment, Sarah, where I'm very sure that you have various talents within your own organization, and the fact that you're working with the rest of the divisions in your uni as well. So what do you think that has worked well in terms of retaining all these talents, especially the millennials and the Gen Z? What has worked to your observation?
Okay. Like we have been talking about today is that the way how the current millennials are looking at work environment itself. I think there are many things that comes into play. For example, the policies, for example, work time. You know, those time we can, we know that you have to come to work at about 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 and things like that. The few interviews that I've done, what they ask is that the first thing when you ask them back, do you have any question for us? One thing they ask is that, is the working hour flexible or not? I think current millennials and Gen Z are very focused on the outcome. Okay, you want me to deliver this, I will get it done on my own time, my own space. All you need is the outcome. But I think the elder people who are managing now, the so-called the baby boomers and all that, I think there's something that's restricting us, saying that, oh, I need to see you from this hour to this hour. You must dress up like this. This is how you behave in the office and things like that. And I do agree with you, Hani, when you mentioned just now about how millennials bring this color, this vibration, this fun into their workspace, yet they don't compromise on the outcome quality. So I think in retaining that group, the millennials, the whole organizational culture has to change. Now, the big question that I will say is that from some of the companies that I've been, plus with the people that I speak, my friends who are from certain industry or certain organization, it's how ready are these organizations in letting go, being a bit more loosened up and welcoming these millennials to take over certain aspects of the organization. I think that's where the dilemma kicks in. Like, for example, Nick, you're talking about your organization, which has been around for 200 years. Yeah. And I know how strong the culture will be, because we are seeing even a company that has been around for 20 to 30 years, having a very strong culture that they are very reluctant of changing it or letting, especially the millennials, the thought is that they are so young. How much do they know about work, culture and things like that? Can I just hand it over to them and let them to change around things? So I think there's a lot of debate that takes place. Good, some organizations are taking the step. They know where to let go and where to go back. So I think when we talk about retaining, we have to talk about retaining both groups. You can't let go the elder generation as well, because they have that experience, that talent that they have built along the way, starting from the lowest point of the rank and working up. So they know a lot of things. But and then again, how do you open up these people's mindset that you have to start being flexible? You need to start learning certain skills that these millennials bring on board. The risk taking. Sometimes millennials can be over risk takers. But how can the elder generation come in and tell that how do you take calculated risk? I think that's where both generations meet somewhere, and not saying that I am better than you. No. It's both groups are needed in any organizations, from my experience itself, for growth and sustainability. So HR plays a very important role, and HR has to come up from the conventional role of just managing payroll, performance management and whatever not, in looking into a bigger scope of how do you play around, set the standard for the new culture in the organization, and also allowing the millennials to explore, make mistakes, but not repeated mistakes. I always believe in that. You must learn from your mistakes and allow them to be a bit more flexible in doing things. But of course, the elderly must come in, or the elder generation must come in and tell them that how do you make decisions that does not have huge impact on the financial of the organization or the image of the organization and so on. So I think these both hands has to clap. Yep.
Yeah, makes sense, Sarah, makes sense. And I'm 100% on board with you on that perspective. And I also think that both, or rather the entire generations which already exist in the workforce, they do have something to bring to the table because of their strength. And I think we should start looking at all the various strengths available in all of these talents. I'm just going to shift a little bit to Gordon, being curious. I am one of the customers for Big Pharmacy for my monthly stock up.
All right, thank you. Come again.
Yeah. So I do notice that, you know, those who are attending to the clients, you know, the pharmacists, for example, they are of the young generation. They're extremely well trained. And I like the kind of engagement and the way of you know, inquiring about certain things are pretty much, I would say, you know, top notch. I like it. So there you go. I like it. Now, having said that, there is also a perception about managing, you know, the millennials or the Gen Z about retention, especially in your environment, especially in your industry. There's a huge turnover a few years ago in the retail pharmaceutical industry. I think a few years ago. Can you share with us, you know, from an employer's perspective, from your perspective, what has worked in your industry, at least, you know, in retaining these young ones?
All right. So come back to the questions again. I do agree with Sarah mentioned about flexibility and the different culture. That makes the game change between the previous and the current working environment. And in big pharmacy, if you're looking at pharmacies is a you know, pharmacy. We have a lot of pharmacy across Malaysia. That is a retail environment. When it comes to retail environment, there's a different kind of motivations level and working environment. If you compare to those working in the office, those working in the headquarters, okay, dealing with the, you know, working on, for example, marketing, finance, is that if you were to look into that, it's a totally different kind of approach to manage. Okay, let's go to the office environment, okay, and also retail environment. What is the same kind of approach that you can look at? The empowerment, have you? I believe before the pandemic, during the pandemic, after pandemic, is all across is the same. Whether you have empower your employees or subordinate or superior to do certain, to execute certain things. And there is a trust issue if you were to notice in what mentioned by by Sarah earlier. Okay, for example, why the older generation, I mean the previous generation, previous generations emphasis on you must attend to the office.
Yes.
Okay, because in the culture, if you categorize the culture into color, okay, the generations, if you are red color and you want the new joiner to come in, if the new joiner is green color, if there's a one person joining in, what is the color? It is still a red color.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you introduce more new joiner, for example, at once, for example, probably a lot of green color coming in. Right. So what is the color? Okay, so if you introduce different people, okay, different kind of people, it's actually diluted your current color unless you have a strong corporate culture or initiative, okay, probably has been done, probably the engagement, I mean the effort that has been done by Nick earlier. Okay, so that's another topic. Okay, now when it comes to retentions, okay, there's several issues we are looking at. You have provided a growth opportunity. Okay, in every organization, you should have a growth opportunity. Okay, no matter you are in a retail, frontliner, or in the office environment. Okay, secondly, you're looking at the compensation and benefits as well. You make sure you have a competitive kind of C and D, all right? And the engagement, again, I emphasize on engagement, whether you have enough engagement with your employees to recognize or reward, okay? Not only in terms of monetary, but non-monetary as well, okay? And in certain circumstances, sometimes the work flexibility is very dependent on the situations, okay? So in terms of that, we have to have a specific kind of policy or work arrangement, and this is, you must consider the internet equity, whether it is implement same across the organization or not. So that's need to be considered before you actually implement that. So I believe most of the organizations or industry having the same challenges when implementing certain effort in changing the culture or maintaining the culture, or make sure your new joiner or your new recruits manage to grow in a company, and hence making the organization grow again.
Gordon, I like your analogy of colors because it just makes sense. If you have, very strong colors in the beginning and then you introduce some other colors into the new crowd, I would say the next question is, so what will be the new color look like? Right? So I like this analogy, and this is simply because you've also touched something on equity, which is trending now in terms of developing talent, attracting talent, retaining talent, and we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and all this. And I think there would be no better person for me to ask than Razin.
Wow.
Bringing in new vibrant colors into the new existing color.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think? Retention price, for example.
Yeah. Okay, I guess going back to Sarah's talking about high level, bird's eye level perspective coming from the organization itself, and then talking about financially, and then talking about how does the elder generation and then coming from the younger generation clap hands, and then from even Gordon talking about perspective from HR side, and then what's the most interesting about your analogy, Gordon, is that when people collectively behave the same way, there are three things, saying the same thing, thinking the same thing, and then behaving the same way. It's very difficult to say that introducing a new color into the group. However, that's how it goes back to the engagement you said just now. So with a certain program nor continuous engagement stating that this is how we want to become, and this is where we're at, and then this is how we were, this is how we're at, and then this is how we're gonna be. By introducing that first to every level of employees you have in the organization, we could say that aligning into the same direction, moving the same way, talking the same thing, and then thinking the same way would definitely help them, help an organization to at least, move the culture into how it should be, and then aligning back with what's the market demand now, and then what does it requires, and how does an employee needs to be. And then one of the initiative could be a so-called transformation journey, introducing a transformation journey where we go back to the basics, go back to the foundation. What needs to be done? What what are the things that is required now if we were to be fit for the future. You know, what do you mean by fit? You know, stressing on outcome driven behavior, and then definitely moving into customer centric. We are no longer becoming a organization where it is comfortable to be as we were. We need to improve, be better, you know, always trying to.
Oops, I think we lost him. I think we lost Nick Razin. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, so while he's sorting out his line, most likely it's raining over at his end. I'm going to pick up on something that he mentioned. Oh, he's back. Razin, are you back? Oh, we lost him again. So, okay, while he's sorting out his connection, I'm going to pick up something that he said, which is on, you know, working together and in terms of culture. So there's a lot of things going on with culture. So culture means is the way we do things around here. I know for a fact during the transformation, there will be a lot of resistance as well. That's why some of the organization was going through, you know, transformation. They set up specific units to manage those changes, you know, by going into engagement and all that. And that also includes the way how the engagement is being done. In my time, which was very long time ago, engagement means sitting down together. Hey, you're back. Okay, so good.
Thanks. Sorry, a bit of technical difficulties here, but I heard what you said just now. Let me continue where you left off just now. So basically, if you were to retain the young talents, definitely it needs to have a change in terms of the colors that Gordon said just now. But what I noticed is that if we're unable to change the color into, for example, from red to green, we can change the red to yellow and then introduce a yellow into the group. You know, if basically, like I said just now, if we were aligning their three criteria, which is how they say, how they see things, how they think, and then how they behave. If we were to, you know, be in the same direction, we can introduce a new joiner by joining the same program and then turning into a yellow and then introducing into a yellow group, rather than definitely, you know, I like the Gordon's analogy. It makes things simple. However, it's not. but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So what happened was during your downtime for a couple of for a few seconds there, I was saying to our audience and as well as Gordon and Sarah that I'm going to pick up on something that you have mentioned, which is about culture, right? So culture is the way we do things around here. And I also mentioned that in my time, when you say engagement means the boss calls you in, and then you get really worried. You know, or a colleague calls you in and say, hey, can we have a chat? And I get really, really worried because I don't know what's going to happen. There's no social media. I don't know what's going on. And the only other news that I could get is from the newspaper, where you actually hold, you touch and you hold it. So that's newspaper. Nowadays, you just look up in your social media, you get news. And I think this is also affecting, over the years, affecting over a lot of other things, not just only engagement, but the way things are being done. And I'm going to go back to Sarah here on his experience in lecturing and, you know, having designing a student experience in terms of these changes over the years. Now, Sarah, I know for a fact that when you have started lecturing many years ago, things were different then. You know, you actually walking into the classroom and students are there.
Yes.
Either they have options of hybrid or they might be somewhere else.
Correct. I think, Hani, that poses a lot of challenge. I think not only in classrooms, but I think even when we run sessions like these and so on, Those times we expect everybody to be right in front of your eyes, and it's easier to communicate, and you know who's going to doze off, who's seeing at you or who's seeing through you and things like that. But nowadays, we know what's happening in real. So I think the concept of engagement has really changed. You can't just put up slides and just run through the slides and expecting people to follow through. I think it doesn't work anymore. And at our point, those times, we were solely depending on what the lecturer is sharing with us, the slides, the books, and so on. But nowadays, the students know in advance, like, what am I going to learn in the class later on or tomorrow? They come prepared. So I think the engagement concept has changed. Rather than running through slides, it's more about talking about cases, talking about scenarios, sharing with them multiple options and asking them, okay, if you are in this particular scenario, what would you do? And guide them through that, telling them that how you would have done better in that sense and getting the outcome where you want to be. So I think the whole that has changed. And also the dynamics of the lecturers being a facilitator rather than lecturer. I think that has also changed, and that makes the students are much more engaged. Even those students who are joining from hybrid, from home and things like that, I think it's very important. People has to look into a new perspective. I think that goes along with the millennials as well. When you bring them, when they come to office, every day, if you give them a mundane job, a routine thing, just updating and things like that, very soon they get bored. For the millennials, what I see is that, and the Gen Z, they want to see a value to the work that they are doing. So how do you create that value in what they are doing? If it's just about keying in data, forget it. Tomorrow, I'm not going to come to work anymore. That's their style. But how do you guide them? Okay, you have this data, you have keyed in, this is what the data is telling, or this is what the trend is. What can we do with this trend? How can you, using your knowledge, help the organization to grow? Now they start seeing the value in a bigger scope. And that keeps them excited about the job. So I think from our point, how do we create this? So that's what I'm seeing, whether it's the classroom or managing millennials at work, how do you create value in what they are doing? If not, I tell you, they're not interested.
Don't think so. And I think this also poses another challenge to those who have been doing a certain thing, i.e. lecturing, as if it was still 20 years ago.
Exactly.
And I'm talking about adaptability. So for you personally, Sarah, what can you tell, or what can you share from your perspective in adapting to this new way of doing things? I would say, Zoom and all kinds of other technology.
Correct. So for me, I think most important is that organizations has to start looking at how do you bring technology. I think many of the organizations has done it, is moving towards that. And we also know for some of them, technology is also not cheap in certain sense. So I think that's also holding some of the organizations going big into bringing technology into their operations and so on. But that is the way forward. Somehow or rather, you really need to find a way to get it done. And automation is another big thing, automation of processes and so on, where you can use, I always tell this one tagline to my people, use technology to do all your processes. People are meant to engage with your customers or your students and so on. Put the empathy part into the human and you engage, but let all the other processes, technology to take care of it. So you have the right information, latest trend and so on, in order for you to come up with new solutions and things like that. For people as well, always be open. I mean, the millennials as well. I know you are open to a lot of information and things like that. You must always scope down at some point. Not everything can be done in an organizational setting. And there's always reason for it. So I think the elder generation's role is that don't just shut off the millennials. Oh, we can't do that. But explain to them why it cannot be done now, or we have to take a bit more longer time to get it done. Give them I think at that point, they will understand and they will be with you. Or even at some point, they will actually come and tell you, you know what, I do understand that, but we can actually do it in a different way and get it rolled out much faster.
Right.
Because we may have the solution, correct? So that will be my input for both groups.
Right. So before I get to Gordon and Rajiv, I've got a few other burning questions before we wrap up the session. We have about 20 minutes to go and a few more discussion items that I would like to share with them. But before I get to Gordon and Nik Razin, I just wanted to invite all of our audience, if you were to have any questions whatsoever to any of our panelists, feel free to use the chat box. That will be the first option. Use the chat box to write out your questions. Or option number 2 is that you just raise your hand and say, I want to ask this to either to any one of the panelists. So either options are okay, and I hope to see a few questions coming in from our audience today. We have quite a bit of 30-odd people in the room today. I'm very sure you have some burning questions, right? So either use the chat box or use the question, switch on your video. All right, so Gordon, I'm going to ask this question as well. It's about the topic of adaptability to technology and all that. So my question is, under the retail pharmaceutical setting, right? Again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very sure that you have another spectrum of generation that is within the talent scope right now. So how does the changes in the technology being adapted by the senior talents? Has it been a challenge, or are they just like, yeah, okay, this is something workable for us?
Okay, all right. So as good questions for the retail talent. Okay, so if you look at big pharmacy, a retail company, okay, we are a healthcare company as well. Okay, so when it comes to the technology, of course, introductions to new technology is very important, and eventually, in terms of recruitment, we do implement, we have applicant tracking system, to track the talent, okay, in order to, grow our talent pool. Okay, all right. So when it comes to pandemic, of course, a lot of people find it, I think across all generations, probably have to switch to digital. Okay, a lot of people maybe find it difficult, but throughout my observations, I can see that people is adapting the culture and digital very fast, no matter which generations. Okay, just that whether how fast you could adapt to it. Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
And with the new technologies coming in, for example, the Zoom we're having, of course, we do using it to facilitate our job, make it more faster or improve. Probably before pandemic, a lot of things probably hanging there. But I believe most of organizations will find that as well during the pandemic, things getting much faster. We are trying to adopt, and a lot of companies have trying to adopt into, for example, how they're doing sales. They want to do sales analysis. They're going to adapt a new technology. They engage with the, the technology company to help them to do the transitions. All right. And if you're looking at big pharmacy, we do have a, big pharmacy application as well.
Yes.
You do install that? Okay, all right. So you can use, you have Doctor to Us, you have e-prescriptions, you have e-pharmacy. Okay, so whether you like it or not, this is the change that is ongoing.
And I think this is where, as an organization, we need to be able to support our talent to transit into these new ways of doing things, I would say, yeah. So I'm just moving on quickly to Nik Razin. Razin, again, I'm still amazed at, for post-Malaysia, 200 years. 200 years. If you can share with us a little bit on the adaptation or the adaptation process of digital and technology across the talent. What has been the experience so far for you, your observation?
I like Gordon said, when we talk about technology, when Sarah said just now, it's very dependent on whether it's all in, all in terms of, top to bottom. Every experience you have is very digitally based, tech savvy based. But in my opinion, my experience so far would be so-called, I would say that it is a journey, Same goes to the culture. When we talk about technology, it's not something it can be done overnight. But then there are applications, technologies where we use to actually reduce our processes in terms of our work, such as reducing papers. We do have application to navigate approvals, Other than that, we do have technologies in terms of sharing ideas, working together as into a online work arrangement, Other than that, online meetings like Gordon said, enable us to talk to different people from different states, and then there is opportunities in terms of creating a tech-savvy culture where we introduce, some. It can be as simple as doing TikTok videos over some festives, just to elevate and motivate our staff, which has a different generations to actually embrace the technology. Some people say that it's so difficult to do a TikTok video, but when you ask, Generation Z or millennials to do a TikTok video, it can be done within 5 minutes, because they know what to think when they want to use it. But people that is not very when we talk about other generation, when we say that it's not for us, But when we talk about technology, it should be for everyone. Doesn't matter what generation you are, but if it does help you in terms of elevate your ideas, elevate your reducing your work processes and introducing new ways of doing things, we should be embracing those technology.
Yes, and we hope that everyone should be able to adapt fairly quickly to all of this, because even we are not, the technology just moves, especially during the pandemic. Whether we like it or not, everyone is forced to learn on how to use Zoom. You apply job through this technology or this platform. You get fired also through this platform, and all that. I think, Gordon, you've seen quite a bit fair of recruitment being done online for the past couple of years. And I think this is one question that I've been having with quite a number of HR practitioners, especially in the area of DI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, where technology now plays a big role. Technology plays a big role in identifying the right talent, because we now no longer exist just in our postcode, but we are recruiting from all over the place. I think where I'm getting at is this. So when we are adopting and adapting to digital first, and as well as technology adoption, there will be challenges in the older generation. So what I want to do is to kind of manage time. Okay, so we have a few more minutes. I want to pose this particular question quickly to Sarah. So over the years, things change, right? So the digital first and technology adaptation. So for you personally, how do you see this changing in the students' adaptability over the years? Technology is easier now compared to last time in terms of acceptance. Let's the academic environment.
Okay, very quickly, I think students nowadays they adapt to new technology in a snap of finger like that. It's very easy for them. I think it goes back to the availability of resources and knowledge. Like for example, it can be good or it can be bad also. For our time when I used to go to university, when we used to go to university, Hani, I think we agree that we did not have much access to the technology. It was practically a lot of hard books and things that we carry around, the notes that we write. We used to carry such a thick notes and all that, handwritten, a lot of quizzes and whatever not, everything has to be handwritten. It's all printed papers and so on. But things has changed so much. I think from kindergarten itself nowadays, kids are open to and they're exposed to technology-based kind of learning. So the students are getting, they pick up a lot of things quite fast. Nowadays, even kids, the kids who has not gone to school yet knows how to download things in their parents' phone and things like that. So I think it's naturally coming to them and they are surrounded by gadgets and so on. So if you ask me whether are they adapting to it very fast, I think they're adapting it very easily. And if they are not getting used to it, it's by choice, not because it's too hard. That is what I would say. And that becomes a challenge for the elder generation, because like I still find it hard to use certain technology or learning certain parts of it, because we are not coded or hardwired in that sense, where not like the younger one, even though they have not taken Bachelor of IT, you ask them to do coding and whatever not, most of them are able to do it. For us, it took millions of years to even crack the code and try to see how do we do that. So for me, I think the thing has changed. Technology is there to be part and parcel of our life. And I think organizations that has not embraced this yet, they are going to be, they will continue to be having challenges when they hire the millennials on board. Unless they have decided not to have that group in the organization, that's a completely new thing for them. But if you're going to have this group, you can't say no to technology. You have to have it there.
Absolutely. But there's also another trade-off that I'm observing, and I'd like to hear your perspective on this. And because of this technology first and all that, the trade-off is the social skills. And I think this prevails as well as when Gordon does hiring practice, right? So I'm going to just go quickly to Gordon in terms of this adaptation to technology. But the trade-off is the social skills. So in the old days, you actually have to sit down and all that. But because of this, there's so much of exposure to technology and everything is being processed in such a way that there's a little percentage left for that social skills to be developed. How do you see this being managed, Gordon, in terms of recruitment? You want the right talent, but then you also want people to be human, with their social skills.
Yes. So that would be one of the biggest challenges for the new generation as well. Okay. Yes, digital transformations can be a great challenge for baby boomers, but it could be, like you said earlier, okay, it could be a glitch of issue when it comes to social skill, interpersonal skill during the pandemic. And right now, we are really too relying on the technology, and this makes us less likely to hop onto the social skill. Okay, all right. So when this is the negative effect come to here, and what we do is that, of course, hybrid meeting, hybrid meeting, hybrid working style is one of the things that suggested by Nick Razin earlier. Okay, that could be one of the way to improve the communications. And if you were to look into they grow because they are grow with the technology. So that makes them more rely on technology to be social. And probably before they're having the lunch, before they're having their dinner, they could capture the food, like the mobile phone, take their lunch before the people.
Hey, sounds like me.
All right, there's occasion as well, comes to me. All right, so this actually more to like they are focusing on social presence instead of
Right.
in person with people. And right now, we are quite emphasized, I mean, not only the companies, also the social, also the environment that encourage us to put down the phone and start talking to people instead of text messaging. Okay, you can text messaging in case there's a need for this area, but when it comes to communications, we would encourage people to speak, because during the speaking, you can understand their body language, the tonality, and the facial expressions. Okay, whether you know the person is angry, whether the person is is happy. And a lot of times in the current situation is that if probably a lot of superior texting the subordinate, okay, you probably texting something else, but the person who received differently. You thought it could be, I mean, the sentences could be angry, but actually it isn't. Okay, that's make the situations worse, because that's probably the staff feeling that they are being scoped. In matter of fact, it's not actually. Okay. So that's the issue when you're having this kind of communication. So open communications, speaking in person, that would be encouraged. All right.
Absolutely, I agree with you. We have one question, and I think I would like to pose this question to you as well, Gordon. Or maybe, you know, Nate Razin and Sarah can join in if you have some thoughts about it. So this came from Lechmi Devi. Okay, so the question is, any idea or suggestion on how to entice Gen Y or Z to join the healthcare workforce, especially nursing? So maybe one thought that any of you wants to pick up on this question. I have no clue.
I think I'll leave it to Gordon first to start, since
Gordon, after you.
Healthcare is a different kind of, I mean, people is, back then, healthcare is something that people, you know, not afraid of. But with the pandemic, people is trying to, you know, avoid. Do you notice that? Okay, people is trying to avoid probably getting involved in healthcare because you're dealing with patients, dealing with those. So right now, that's the, if you were to encourage, okay, if we were to, you know, offer those, what do you call it? I mean, those Gen Z, Gen Y to join. So this could be a tricky part, because the environment, the safety is one thing to concern. So probably what do you call it? The improvement in this area could be, you know, could be one of the improvement point you can work on. So people won't be afraid of getting into healthcare line.
Yeah, and maybe work-life balance at the same time. Yeah, I mean, we have heard all these cases of not having the work-life balance. I know for a fact that one of my clients is a freshman. He works something like 15 hours a day for a straight 5 to 7 days. It's kind of one thing, you know, to ensure young ones to be able to do despite the fact that there's bigger purpose to this role. Yeah, so I think there are certain things that needs to change. So okay. I also think, sorry, did we miss it? Okay, so I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just managing time. We are about a couple of minutes to 4 o'clock. I would like to thank you for the questions that came through our chat box and all the sharing from our panelists today. Fantastic sharing. So before we wrap up, which we have another couple of minutes, maybe the last word of wisdom from our panelists to wrap up for the day. Maybe, you a quick ones that you like to advise, topmost advice that you like to leave to fresh grads who are about to embark on their career journey, and how to stay grounded. So Sarah, and then I would like to hear from Gordon, and last but not least from Nick Razin.
Okay, from me, I have listed down 3 key things. Number 1, always sit down, take time to reflect what have you done over the day, over the week, and so on. So it helps to tell you that whether are you doing something you love. Number 2, always find purpose in the job that you do. Why are you doing it? When you have a solid reason tagged to it, you'll find it more purposeful, and you'll always work towards bettering it off, and find a purpose of your existence in that organization or the industry. And the third one, please find time to take a break in between. I know sometimes you just love your job so much, you love what you do, you forget that you have not taken a break. Sometimes I ask people, when was the last time you have taken a leave? Oh, I can't remember. That's that's a complete no-no. How much you love the job also, you must also love yourself, your mind, and your soul. Take a break, completely shut off about the work, go and have a good cup of coffee, have some massage, travel somewhere. And normally, this is the time, sometimes without you realizing, you will get new ideas popping up. Okay, so always take care of yourself. These are the 3 key important things from me. Over to you, Gordon.
Awesome. Gordon, your turn.
All right. Okay. The advice I listed down several key points as well. I believe it is referring to 3 advice given to them as well, isn't it? Okay. So the first one, okay. When it's come to millennials and Generation Z, so the things that we should, my advice is my suggest is to open to criticism. Okay. A lot of times, if you want to improve, if you want to be getting better, open to criticism with open heart is very important, and you have to got a strong heart to taking the feedback from others. Okay, so secondly is the respect to others. So you need to get respect. You need to respect others before you getting respect from others also. All right, and the third one is learn to persistent. You keep doing it, can keep doing it, and getting marginal gain. If you give up easily, then the margin again will come to 0 again. All right, back to you.
All right, I'm going to top up the final tips from Sarvan and Gordon. So 3 things for me as well. Know your strength, know your weakness. Once you know your strength and weakness, you'll build up your confidence. And once you build up your confidence, then you know that whenever you endeavor a new journey, whenever you endeavor a new adventure, you'll know that you're good at it, at least in some part. If that will bring you hope to even strive, you be better, and strive you to be better and to excel in your work. Yeah, that's all for me.
Excellent. I am so inspired today that I think I'm going to take leave tomorrow and find.
That sounds good.
All right, so we are hitting 4 o'clock. I am very pleased to see that we have still most of our participants who attended today. Thank you again to IMU with a specific dedication to Dr. Kang, to Najwa, to Doreen for having me today to facilitate and to create conversations, wonderful conversations with all of our 3 panelists, Nick Razin, Gordon, and Saravanan. I think our 2 hours have been well spent this afternoon. I learned a thing or two myself, and especially, feeling all the great vibes coming from across generations here. And we have all the young people here in this room today. So we're wrapping up. Thank you again. I am Hani, and I'm very pleased to be here today. And over to Najwa and Doreen to take over. Thank you, guys.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock sharp on the dot. So I won't be able to speak long. I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Sarah, Gordon, and also Nick Razin for, for saying yes to our request, for being here. I know 2 hours is valuable to busy people like you. So yeah, thank you so much. The thank you is from IMU, of course, on behalf of IMU. And last but not least, I think we should, take like a good photo today to remember this day. So I hope everyone who is still here to put on your camera and quickly take a group photo and then we can leave. All right. So 1 minute. Can I have the rest? I see Xiao He here. Some familiar names. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So on my count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and give me 1 more minute. Second page, 1, 2, 3. All right, that's the end of today. I hope to see all of you again on our next Future of Work. We will notify you soon on the next session. Bye everyone, have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.